me kill that mosquito. He's just fixing to poke me with his long, jaggedy thing, and I eliminated him right off of my body there. Oh, so here's what I'm up to. I've been talking to somebody about selling them this here oil can banjo. This was my number 9, and it's a 5-quart reused oil can, and it's got a Vega Style F tenor neck on it that I worked over and refretted and converted and put some new pegs on. It's got a nice little bridge that somebody gave me. I kind of hate to see go, but it really fits this banjo well, so I'm going to let her rip. Somebody sent me a letter the other day and said they wanted me to come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. I think I ought to go check my email, because people always ask me to play stuff. But I think that's what they wanted, so I'm going to play it. Here we go. We'll see how it works out. Oh, I'll take the lid off. A little bit more volume that way. I think there are mosquitoes lusting after my body even as we speak. Alrighty then, I suppose. Oh, look at that little rascal. He's trying to bite me. I suppose I ought to go see if I can find a box to put this thing in, because I think she sounds pretty good. I think she's good enough to go. Okay then, I'll get to work on that. See you later.
noise at? sweetie.
You leaving us?
I am.
Alrighty then.
I'll be back in a bit.
I'll be looking forward to seeing you soon.
Okay.
This is it. This is what I'm going to fix. I put this stick in here because I had to change the angle and I didn't want to re-drill this hole. But now that I've done it, I'm thinking, is this going to be here for 100 years? And I'm thinking not. So what I think I'm going to do is I've ordered a different kind of tailpiece because I'd have to move the bolt up to here. So I'm going to drill the hole about a little bit higher than where this stick is now. Because what that does is when the stick moves up, the neck moves down, and you want to get the neck at the right angle for here. And you can see, yeah, you can see with that high bridge that if the neck angle changed a little, and we're talking a difference of, you know, this is like a difference of 1/4 of an inch and 3/16 of an inch. So it's very little difference, but it makes a big difference down this long neck.
Yeah.
So I ordered a different tailpiece, and I'm going to re-drill this hole and remount this neck pretty much like it was without this stick in the back. And then when it goes back to him, it'll be good and solid and more or less original except for the extra hole. And the tailpiece I ordered is actually closer to what was on here than this thing. This is a new type tailpiece here. So it'll be kind of fixed up a little better. But in the meantime, I can play it.
Yeah, how come it's such a high bridge?
Because of the angle of the neck. When I dropped it down, see this, the bolt used to be where the end of this is, and now the bolt is here in this one. So that's a difference of it's close to a 1/2 inch difference, but probably a little less than that. So anyway, I'm gonna probably about 5/8 of an inch difference there. When I change it, I'll make it a little less, and it should make this be a little right. But anytime you're changing a banjo's neck angle, it's kind of an experiment. You know, you do it and you try it, and sometimes you wind up drilling 2 or 3 different holes back here, and rather than do that, kind of by putting that stick in there, I was able to see how it sits like this. What I can do now is go in here with a marker, and I can mark that and get me a mark here and measure down and get my hole right. You know. But it's a nice sound, and it's got the old funky old banjo. It's got an old sound. It's got an old sound to it. It sounds like old church music. I can never sing and play at the same time. But that'll be a good one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, then. You have a safe day.
All right.
See you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty then, I wanted to do a follow-up on this old K banjo. You know, when I was a young fella, I didn't think much of K instruments, but the more I mess around with them, the more I like them, the older I get. I like the feel of this neck, and I know it's not an expensive instrument, but I still like it. What I wound up doing to adjust this neck angle is I put a little strip of leather in there, and I took an old credit card and I cut it apart and slipped in there, and that gave me maybe about 1/8 of an inch, which allowed me to get the neck angle just right. I loosened the bolt inside and adjusted the little screw on the back, got it just about perfect. What happened to my tuning? I had this thing tuned up a while ago. Must have bumped into something with it. Let me tune a while and I'll play you a song on this baby. I must have retuned my banjo in my sleep and forgot about it, but anyway, I think she's good now. it's not a real loud banjo. It could be louder. This little thing on the back actually muffles the sound more than improves it. But, you know, still it's a nice little banjo, and I'm happy I got a chance to play it. I'm going to take it back to church with me and give it back to its rightful owner here in a few days. So, glad y'all got to share that with me. Y'all have a nice day now. Keep out of trouble and all that. Church with had this okay banjo in his closet, and he dug it out and said, think you could fix it. And basically all I did was clean it up, restrung it, and reset the neck. The neck was at a horrible angle. It's actually got a little hole here in the head, but it's not enough to hurt. In fact, it could be cool if you were in a bar room playing, you could take your cigarette and stick it in that hole and then play this while the cigarette smoked. That'd be cool. This thing has one of these funny looking shiny hubcaps on the back. I actually think it deadens the sound. Doesn't really help it any, but anyway. Strings stretch for a little while, and then we'll try that again. That's pretty cool though. I think he'll be happy with that. Well, I think before I do anything else with this old banjo, I am going to see if I can't realign that neck. It's got about a quarter of an inch of distance between the neck and the string right down here. And this one has an adjuster screw in the back. I believe you take this back off of here, loosen the bolt that holds the neck so you can loosen that adjuster screw and adjust the neck. And before I even put strings on it or anything, I'm going to go ahead and adjust it. So we'll start off by popping this off of here. Yeah, it looks just about like I thought it would. It's got a little bolt here that I think I'm going to grab a wrench and loosen up. Now that I got that loose, I'm going to turn this screw and see what happens. I don't know if the screw will actually move the neck or... Well, yeah, it is moving the neck, and it's making it farther away. So if we turn this screw clockwise, nothing's happening there either. Okay, let's go the other way. Okay, I see. When you turn it counterclockwise, it pulls it down. Mechanism it's got inside there. Okay, here's what I figure. Turning that screw adjusts the neck slightly. It doesn't adjust it so much that you can overcome a half-inch of string height. In order to do that, what you need to have is a little piece of something like a spacer between the neck and this banjo ring right here. Well, I've probably got just the thing. I have a tendency to save pieces of stuff that can come in handy for use on a banjo. And I think I've got a little skinny piece of leather that I could slip in there. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these strings up first. With the strings loose, I believe I can kind of crack that open so that, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little crack that appears right in here, which is what I want. Because what I want to do is slip a little piece of material right down in there. So let me find something to put in there. Every so often someone will come along and they'll say, hey, I got this old banjo that's been in my closet forever and I don't know if it's any good or not. Can you take a look at it and can you fix it? And they come up with something like this. This is actually a pretty sweet old banjo. It's an old K made somewhere between the 60s and the 70s. This particular one has a little tin plate sound resonator on the back of it, which is kind of cool. Not a terribly expensive banjo in its day, but you know, it's pretty well made and all. And it's quite dirty, as you can tell, and dusty. It's got a little hole in the head here, but other than that, there's not much wrong with it. And most of the time, when a lot of times when people bring them to me, well, I can tell the neck could use a little alignment because the strings are really high, really out of tune. But you know, that's fixable. Usually, what I do, I start with the 4th string, and I get it in a place where it sounds about right, and then the 4th string fretted at the 5th fret should sound like the 3rd string open. And then I fret the 3rd string at the 4th fret, and that should sound like the 2nd string open. It does. And then I fret the 2nd string at the 3rd fret. That should sound like the 1st string open. And then the 1st string at the 5th fret should sound like the 5th string open. Okay, let's tighten them strings up a bit more. play it on strings that could have been on there for 10 or 15 or 20 years. The string height is really high, but on these old banjos there's a little screw in the back of here. I believe I can go inside here and loosen the nut that's on the back of this neck and adjust that screw, and it will tilt that neck this way and that. It might let me slide it this way and that and retighten it. So I can easily readjust the neck. It does not appear to be warped or anything. I generally am not a big fan of new strings, but this one might can use a new string or two. They don't need much. Pretty cool old banjo. Glad I got a chance to play with it. I'll mess with it some more. Have a nice day. Well, I got home a little bit earlier from work today than I normally do, so I thought it'd be a good day to work on this banjo neck. This is a banjo neck that I made up out of an old 4-string tenor. I put a 5th-string tag on here, put it on a gas can banjo for a friend of mine, and it cracked. I repaired the crack, and I put these 2 pieces on the bottom. What I'm going to do today is grind these around so that they become nice and smooth and they look like it's all made together. I'm going to start with my big grinder, because you can see I've got a good bit to grind off here. Maybe maybe about 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch anyway. And then I'm going to use my small grinder to pretty it all up with, and then I'll probably put a little coat of varnish or lacquer or something down here. This mostly because this has been lacquered before. If it wasn't, I'd rub it down with some kind of oil, but since it's been lacquered before, I'll put a coat on that, seal it all up, make it all look about right. This is a nice piece of mahogany, this neck is. And then I guess nothing will keep us from putting this thing back together and seeing if she still plays, so we'll go from there. One of the things you have to be careful with when you're using this old big grinder is that you don't do something like this. It's really easy to be grinding on this thing here and bring the headstock down up there and grind off part of your headstock, you know. So usually what I do when I'm using this one is I'll kind of hold it out to the edge and work around like that. Of course, then you get in the problem of trying to do the other edge. You do have to do something like this. But then I got a small little grinder over there. It ain't worth much, but it's good for these sort of things, you know. So probably what I'll do is I'll grind off a lot of this on this, and I'll take it over to my small grinder and I'll fine tune it up from there. This grinder is really pretty much a piece of crap. There's a lot of tools you can buy like off of eBay and stuff, and they're not any good, but you can still get a little use out of them. That's kind of what this one is. And I tell you what I mean by not being any good. When it's cold, this thing won't run. It doesn't have enough power to run it when it's cold. I bought a grinder that was the same way. It didn't have enough power to grind anything, but it would work a little. You kind of have to let it get up to speed and then grind it and it'd slow down. But I like this one because it's got this little belt and it's easy to, you know, kind of get my eyeball in here and work this around the edge. It's not too scary. So what I'm going to try to do here is to do just that. Now I'm just going to take a little piece of regular sandpaper and just kind of work that around a little bit there. Okay, I'll show you this now that it's about done. I got it sitting over the wood stove here to dry. And what I did was I just put a little coat of stain on the whole thing, and then a little light coat of varnish on it. And you can see how that heel looks now that that's on there. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a fancy sort of look. And that's a pretty decent looking banjo neck for a gas can. I mean, it'll do. So I just thought I'd share that whole process with y'all. Y'all have a nice day. This is Arnold. Arnold's a famous poet and the owner of a 33 Chevy sedan.
Yes.
As well as a 50-something Chevy truck.
51 pickup and a 57.
All original. Also. And you used to work at the Chevy dealership back in the day.
Yes, I did.
And a guitar player, and you found this banjo for sale in the local paper and just went and bought it?
Yes.
Brought it over here and it was extraordinarily dirty. I think we've scraped off so much dirt you can't tell it anymore, but it was like fuzzy and dusty and strung backwards with pretty poor looking strings and no bridge and no tailpiece.
Right.
So I just made a tailpiece out of a fork.
Oh.
And I got a box of bridges over there, and he's cleaning it up, and we're gonna string it and readjust the head and put a bridge on it and see how it sounds. With that said, I'll shut up.
Very good. That is great. Wow.
Can you play a song on it for YouTube so we can see the finished product? That's a pretty banjo.
Yeah, boy, that's not an old timer. It dates back to the 1800s.
Yeah.
Vagabond.
Yeah. She's a beauty. If you hold the camera, I'll make a little quick tune with it.
Oh, good.
Just look through that little window. Because you see what we're looking at. These strings will stretch for a while. Having a fifth string, I don't know what to do with my thumb. That's great.
Geez, thanks a million, Richard. Wow.
He's got this back that goes on here too. Has a little flower design on the back of it. So, pretty nice old banjo there. It's got a that's a curly maple pot he's got on there. So it's okay.
Wow.
It's okay. Alrighty then. Arnold owns a 33 Chevy, and he hasn't seen the rat rod since I finished it, but the rat rod frame is a 33 Chevy frame, so he's gonna...
Oh my God. Jesus.
So this is the first time you've seen it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
Is that a Packard aftermarket Swan there?
No, it's a real one. As far as I know, it's a real one.
Real Packard.
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
I bought it for a real one.
Oh yeah.
Now this is 33 Chevy frame, so
yeah.
Same frame as on your sedan.
Yeah, well that's all right. When I saw it before, just the frame.
Yeah.
The bare frame.
Well, we pieced it together since then.
You got Ford wheels here on the front.
Yeah, 35 Ford wheels.
Disc brakes. Wow.
And fire it up. I believe she'll crank. She always does. What's your Cadillac is that? 53? 53? Wow. If it wasn't raining, I'd take you for a ride. Okay, this is a little how-to for all you banjo buddies out there. Everybody that plays the banjo knows that the banjo is a very mechanical instrument. This particular banjo is a gas can. I was having a problem because my strings had gotten, see the top of this gas can kind of caves in when you put the string pressure to it, and the strings were getting so close they were starting to rattle a little bit against the edge. So what I did was I took me a couple of oak wedges and
I had to stick a pencil under the string and lift the strings a little bit to get them in, but once I got them in, I was able to slide one under each side of the bridge here. And it doesn't seem to have hurt the playing of it too much. I'll show you. I actually think it might have improved it because it had that kind of a rattly sound before because the strings were too close. And now it's just a lot clearer. So anyway, there's that. That might be a little tip that helps somebody along. Hope your banjo days are going well.